I'm Jamie S. Rich. I've been working in comics for 20 years. Join me as we dig a little deeper into how comic books are made and get to know the people who make them. This is From the Gutters.
So let's get into something then that people don't really understand, which is what an editor of a comic book does.
I'm still not quite sure myself.
They always think we write the bubbles, and then we gently correct them and say, no, it's balloons.
Balloons, yes. There are so many things that an editor does that, I mean, if you don't know how to multitask, you're never going to be able to do this job. You have to be able to keep your charts straight. I'm such an old beast now, I don't even bother with charts. I occasionally look at, I kind of do the Indiana Jones thing with the idol and the sand.
Right.
Like, yeah, we're going to make that deadline, you just feel it in your gut. And that's how, I think most of what people do. Yeah, there's grammar and there's spelling and all that, and there's, the visual storytelling of the board. But most of it is, at the inception of a book, when you're creating it, it's gut. I'm going to blank on the guy's name, I can't remember his name right now, but it's an old, nobody knows nothing, or nobody knows anything. And it's about movies, and they all think they know what they're doing. The Shore Bet movie, 99.9% of the time, goes down the crapper, and the movie that's a long shot winds up being the biggest selling movie of the year. You just never really know until it's all done, because it's such a collaborative effort. Your risk is a lot less when you're working in comics because you have less of a team. When you might have 6 or 7 people working on it, whereas in a film you have nowadays thousands.
Right.
So the most important thing for me, the most important things at the very beginning is, okay, you've established the story, you've got it approved, everybody likes it. You get in a script, you read that script. You get a 24-hour turnaround. You got to let that writer know, A, that you read it, B, what you liked about it, C, what you didn't like about it, or what you feel was weak, what you feel needs strengthening. You do that within 24 hours because it's still fresh. They've been banging on it for a month or so. They want to hear. So you do your best to get back. The same thing with art, only even quicker. When you get that art in, you have to let them know. Art has arrived. Nowadays, it's through the internet.
Yeah, we used to get boxes of FedEx with an entire issue of Sin City.
Yeah, just a big pile of pages, 15 pounds of artwork that usually smelt of whatever Frank was smoking that week. But, Doug Wildey, when we worked with Doug, that was the coolest thing. You could smell his studio. It's like, oh, there's Doug, there's the dog, there's,
Some cured meat.
Yes, well, that was on a Frank Miller package. But you immediately not only let them know that the art has arrived, but you should take the moment to go, oh, this panel here, they actually improved. And you go, I really like this, I really like that. The splash is great. And then, usually with both the writer and the artist, you lead with the positive and then I usually say, well, I had some concerns, but we'll talk about those tomorrow. And unless they press me, and they usually don't, because I don't want to deal with that bullshit now, then we go back and we go, okay, well, this is a little weak in storytelling. This hand doesn't look like a hand. Working with Frank on the Dark Knight Strikes Again. No, actually, not that book. Working on Holy Terror he has this double-page spread with this shoe in this rubble, and there's a car, and I kept begging him, Frank, that shoe, it doesn't work. And it was not a fully held line drawing, and there was color, and the shoe was in such a position that made the cars look like Tonka toys. And I fought so hard, and I love Frank, and he won, and we left the shoe the way it is. And I can't tell you how many people went, what's going on with that double-page spread?
That's always the worst as the editor, that haunts you.
You can't,
I can think of panels in my head. I'm like, I told them to change it. And every time you open the book, it's the first one you see.
It's there. And oh, God, it probably bothers me more the whole world can go in an outrage,
Yeah.
but it could have been so much better with just a little line over here. So you try to be supportive. You, as an editor, you are the cheerleader for the project. You, depending upon where you work, like if you're working at Marvel or DC, to somewhat a dark horse, but mostly a Marvel DC, you've got to, and publishers hate this, but they know, a good publisher knows that a good editor has got to protect the freelancer from the overreaching parts of a publisher. Marketing, accounting, all these other parts are like, oh, well, we can just take this and rape them. And you've got to go, no, it's called the date. There's another way to massage this and make it better so that the artist doesn't feel like they're being taken advantage of. And the more you're honest with that writer or artist about that relationship, and that you fight for them and you fight for their project, and you hold that line so that there's fairness, the more they're going to deliver for you, the more they're going to understand, well, this guy's on my side. That doesn't mean that you constantly sell out the publisher. But the publisher, in most of these cases, isn't paying their health insurance. They're not taking care of their kids for the next 20 years. They're a corporation that's got all this money, especially the two big ones, with now Disney and Warner Brothers. They're set. So you've got to take care of that person that's basically swinging from tree to tree, vine to vine.
Yeah.
As a freelancer, they don't know what their next gig's going to be. So that, to me, those are, to me, the biggest things that you need to do, because you establish this trust. They know that you're going to call. They know that you're going to take a look and be interested, and they know that you're going to fight for them as much as you can. But yeah, there's the routine of you get the script, you go through it. I usually don't do much. I notate what I think needs editing later. And so it's there in the script, and I don't bother unless it's something huge.
Right.
I don't bother the writer if it's grammar or anything. I just make a note and I address that as we get, before it goes to the letterer. Same thing with the visual storytelling of the pencils. You go through it, as long as it's looking like it's working, the writer likes it, you like it, fine. If there's something that you look at and you go, this makes no sense. There's a jump from panel A to panel B, and I'm lost. You bring it up. You say, hey, can we get this? I've lost what's happened here. And most times artists will agree.
Well, and too, like an editor who's on point usually is going to find the things that, as a freelancer, you're going to bring it up and say, oh, I think, on this page, Superman's leg looks wonky. And then they're most likely going, I thought I could get away with that.
Exactly.
I didn't want to fix it.
Exactly.
All right, I'll do it.
Because it was a long day, and
yeah,
and it's the same thing with an inker. You'll if you know the relationship between the penciler and the inker, sometimes you can go, you know what, I can let that leg go, because obviously John Byrne was on the phone with his lawyer when he drew that leg, and Terry Austin is going to fix it, and that's what Terry gets paid for. So sometimes you, as an editor, go, screw it, it'll be fine, because I know the inkers. I can ask the inker, could you make that look like a foot? That'd be great, And again, you've got to, when you're working at a Marvel or DC or even Dark Horse, you've got to interface with all the other departments, production, advertising, marketing, all these other people, and you've got to maintain some kind of a relationship that isn't absolutely horrible. They're usually not really good, but you've got to maintain some kind of a relationship where you can get what you need out of them.
Because when I was at Dark Horse, I felt like if I could keep Mike Allred from having to talk to marketing and having to talk to accounting, it's probably better for both of them.
Right.
Because I can deal with them diplomatically, but the guy who wants his check is not going to be.
It's just going to be blunt and go, screw you, and then the checks don't come at all.
And that stops him from working too.
Right.
So it's like I can do this.
You have to massage everybody. So there's the checking the lettering, making sure that the letterer's got a good. Nowadays, most people, because of technology, the way it's advanced, there's not a lot of ballooning going on. It's mostly the artist will kind of just. I haven't ballooned a book in a long time.
I don't either. I encourage most of the artists I work with to actually do it in their thumbnails for themselves.
Right.
But most
so
of the letters I work with...
figure out the space ratio.
And then usually the letters can just see it.
Yeah, it's right there. It's obvious that balloon goes here.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with professionals, you're not sitting there going, well, please make sure that the first speaker is on the left-hand side,
Right.
because otherwise you got balloons going like this and everybody's got scrambled eggs for brains. But when you are dealing with new talent that doesn't understand, you do have to lay out some of those more crude, more basic rules. And I usually ask them to pick up, the Scott McCloud book or the Will Eisner book, or I ask them to pick up a comic book, and go, okay, this is how it's done. But most of the people I've worked with, I just worked with Travis Beacham, the guy who wrote Clash of the Titans. All wasn't his fault. And Pacific Rim, and I thought he did a great job on Pacific Rim, and I thought he did a great job on the prequel. And he had never written a comic before. Gave him a couple of samples, like a fish to water. I mean, he really got it. He just jumped right in. Couple of little things here and there, just had to tell him, no, well, that doesn't work this way. And 99% of it, he was right there. Same thing with Kevin Smith. They're very similar mediums. They're very, very, there's not too much of a jump. Some of them have trouble realizing, no, you are the art director, you are the cinematographer, you are not just the guy writing the screenplay. You've got to tell the artist what you need to see in this panel so that it makes sense in the next 2 or 3. There's a punchline, But most of them come to it pretty quickly.
All right, well, that was great, but my drink is empty.
I think
Your drink is empty,
yeah,
so
back.
I think we should move over to the bar and take it easy, get a little comfortable, get a little wacky.
I'm not quite sure how that works, but yeah, I think we can figure something out.
All right.
Great.